introduction, Milena Suarez, our former IMF president, very instrumental in putting together the foundations of our IMF. She worked in Cebu, the BRT project. She's an architect on transport planning and infrastructure in countries in Latin America, Southeast Asia, and Africa. So she created also the Land Operations Value Enhancement, or LOV. So since 2015, she has worked with the transport project with Metropolitan Approach. So without further ado, Milena, my good friend. I turn it over to you. Milena, can you hear me? Milena?
Yes.
Okay.
You. So thank you very much, Mark, for this introduction. I'm so happy, so glad to be here. Today presentation is about Metropolitan Transport. So I will start just mentioning that this is a discussion or some insights view building up metropolitan scale for transportation. So the need for this is because as we have seen, the most of us who we are here, we have been taking this introductory course for metropolitan discipline. Then we have this access for interaction with too many fellows all over the world. So I have been learning a lot from all of you, but still I want to give you some other insights and concepts about transportation or public transport. So for many of us, we are very familiar with this figure about the genome. In this figure, we have these three components about the economic, social, and physical environment, how to make it all equitable or balanced, to build the metropolitan management or the metropolitan areas or the metropolitan governance. And of these discussions that we have been passing this morning. So this is done by Pedro Ortiz, so many of us are related with this. So where is transport? It's in this component of the physical environment. We have these two sectors, which are the economic investment necessary to build infrastructures. And then we have two systems, which in the physical component, which is continuous and discontinuous. So in the discontinuous, so we have housing, social facilities, productive activities, but in the continuous are where we are doing the physical plans. We mostly are based in the environment, transport, and in the human activities or land uses. So this discussion is only about the transportation and how we can generate value with love, So how we will do value enhancement for the land's operations. So for those who has been watching the videos of Pedro, so maybe are familiar with this analogy about the carrots and sticks, and where the carrots approach is more about the financing and the benefits. So what are the benefits? So it's the infrastructure that has to be done by the public sector, roads, public space, accessibility, and utilities. Then the land use and mixed use, for mixed use and air rights, density, compactness, and taxation benefits for private investors. So the cards are how attractive you are for love, how you beautiful are to get the private sector involved in the development, in the balanced urban development for metropolitan development, sorry. So then after that approach, in the Metro Matrix methodology, there is a layer approach how to resolve the unit, no? But I want to give you another, or I will say is similar. We have the same conditions for law, but basically it's two statements or two separate moments of the integration to build the metropolitan network. So we have in one pile we have the physical conditions. So we have like a sandwich for the current conditions from the physical, which involves the environment, or the blue structure, gray structure, blue structure and green structure in the metro matrix methodology. Then we have the current conditions for the road network, the current conditions for public transport conditions, the land use structure, the socioeconomic conditions, and then we can conclude in a layer that I call opportunities and restrictions diagnosis. So this layer will show us what are the opportunities, or what are not. For example, we have some areas that are very risky to build a network, or we have some ecological restriction or reserve that we cannot touch in the territory. So we need to acknowledge all the restrictions that we could have in the territory. So then we have some efficient principles for transportation. I was not able to have the app for this, but the slide for this. So the issue for efficiency is basically based in the proximity, density, and the connectivity. How faster you access the services, no, to all the human activities that we need to work, to have a meal, education, know how fast you can access to all the services. So it has to be, this issue about the principles is very related with the composition of the diversity of the land, no? How close you are to all the services you have, and how you connect, in how long time and about what time you connect. So then you have this proposal in time. So normally now, before we used to do it for 2030. So now we are doing the proposals longer, no? Because all these investments for infrastructures and land, it takes long time. So now, mostly the scenario for perspective is 2050. So same. So we do the prospective socioeconomic analysis. Then we have the land use proposals and urban activities, the road network proposal, the integrated transport network analysis, the real estate and potential market, which is very important now. Because basically here is where is the opportunity to have the funding or the financing opportunities to deal with the implementation. Then we have this integrated concept for urban activities, real estate, and transport functions. So as you see, transport is not only a matter of the territory, it's very related to the socioeconomic or attached or link to the socio-economic conditions about the potential of trigger the private sector for the urban development. So the promise of love is to be attractive, stand forever, be reliable. So this means for the investor to have the maximum return, to be sustainable, the maximum liquidity, to build confidence with a minimum risk. No, this is the approach for the carrots, no, how to be attractive. So in that approach, so also many of you must be know about this scheme, is how you deal with the different scales to build this transport network. So we can go from the bicycle and pedestrians to the airplanes, no, and to the airports. Actually, what we are trying to deal in the metropolitan scales is with this scale of 1 to 50,000, and this is very important because normally we has been done a lot for BRT, LRT, for bus, for taxi. So here we have a lot of knowledge. We have many researches how to be more effective in the urban areas. But when we go to the metropolitan scale, there is not too much. And we need to build up this discussion for metropolitan transport, how to reach in a bigger scale to increase the interactions, to be more efficient, with the other cities, with other functions. As we know, we are not only talking about amalgamation. We are trying to build metropolitan network with different functions over the territory. So this is the integration concept. Normally for metropolitan areas, and also this work in a smaller scale, scale for urban sectors, but this is the same principle. We should build like a high capacity lanes, and then we can transfer in the mid capacity lanes, then low capacity, then like the last mile trajectories, and with all that and this is why many cities as London, Singapore, Madrid are so successful, is because they build the network understanding this gradation, the gradation from the high capacity to low capacity, and then reaching very strategically the node points for integration. So those nodal points are like is the highest potential to be attractive and to build up all these intermodal complexes, with a high transit of passengers and commuters, offering services, complementary services. It's not matter to pass through, and this is Transport for London and Consorcio de Transportes de Madrid has been super successful building these kind of nodes for integration and intermodality. So what is the challenge for the metropolitan transport sector is how to match the zoning planning with the urban transport modes. So when we have this transect, which is what we have in many cities, going from natural zone to the urban core and going to industrial areas or urban centers or residential areas or suburban. So how we can plan efficiently these capacity modes, going through all these networks. So this is the challenge for metropolitan scale, matching the urban morphology with the transport network and the integration and the multimodality. Okay, so here there are some more carrots. Pedro has a horse, but I have a bunny. I will explain you why later. So this is how to get the funding, and this is what Mats was mentioning earlier, is the funding composition for transport sector in metropolitan scale cannot be done only by the private sector, which is what happened in Manila, in Philippines, and it's a very bad incentive because the private sector is not in the interest of the public sector to provide a high quality service, which it is for we teach for the public sector. So here I just, okay, 10 minutes more. So here I just want to show you like an example how in the different cities can be the composition for the funding. And if you see, for example, with the right incentives, so how Hong Kong is based on one lane of Riverside in London is based for the station development. That's why I was telling you, like all these nodal points in the network has to be very it has to be stronger in the planning to be able to be attractive. Now, this number 3 is what we want to have in many of our countries, in developing countries, where we don't have that efficiency still in the public sector. But to have this, we have to link this with the kind of authority or the kind of government that we have available. So we have other strategies like tax increment financing or tax supplement. So and it's also, it can be mixed also in the same city for different transport modes. It doesn't mean that we have to, or the cities or the metropolises should have like one strategy for the whole city. No, they can mix because the demand of the passengers, not the socioeconomic condition, maybe you need a subsidy. So you have to deal with several financing models to reach the funding composition. I will go faster. So in summary, we have 4 ways to have funding for transport network. We have the direct government for general funding, the user charges based in the fare box or the passenger surcharge for additional services or for better services. The station area income, that is what now many governments are working for, how to earn the money for the value capture that we have around the stations. Then also we have the real estate related funding streams, which are the highest opportunity to have a more sustainable and balanced network, because this is also related to the maintenance and the operability and the sustainability of the network. So we have this, I spread for the funding options based basically in the tax fee and development base. Only there are some, and it's the migration that we are having now here in Bogota, in Colombia, and as many of our cities, we want to be like Singapore, is to have this transport authority as a transport company, but also doing the development, to be able to stand alone and to do the master developing for all the network all over the metropolis. So this is the challenge. This is where we want to move, many of us, but to go there, we need to have very strong policies, very strong incentives, very strong regulations, to be able to handle the private sector. Otherwise, you will have like a kind of cannibalism from the private sector, taking all the benefits from the public investments in the transport network. Okay, sorry. So this is just, I will share with you later this presentation, but basically this is an example in Medellin about one metro station, and it's also in the Metropolitan Scale. Is connecting, it's an intermodal hub, and it's connecting different transport modes. So they have this tax base now, but they are giving like a tax increase promise to the private sector, not to tell them that they will earn more money if they have the benefit now to do the investments for the investment in the infrastructure. So it will allow us like financial liquidity and acquire land or do the renovation of public networks, or to do the resettlement, or all the studies that they need to implement the stations. This is some schemes to have the integration with the transport hub. So here in Colombia, and I think it's all over the practice, is you have this promise to the private sector for 30 years. And then you have return of investment from the 6 to 7%. So this is how you can be attractive, So, and this is like an average that we should try to deal to do the financial modes when we are trying to build up these kind of models. So those were the carrots. So we need to build the competences, as we have seen in other videos from Pedro. So the competences are like a cage, no? Because once you have the competences, you have the power, no, to deal with the private sector. So the competences here for the transport sector. I will not talk all over housing or water or environment, no, because maybe there is, as Mats mentioned, we can have like an authority or a council or some structure to deal with the whole metropolitan problem, no? But for the institutional or for, yes, for the institutional or the sector organization. So the thing is, we need to build an authority that is capable or able to deal with the multimodality of the city in the integration with the urban development, with the densities, with the land use, with the human activities around the areas, not to reach this diversity, this proximity and accessibility to the services. So we have these 5 levels for institutional arrangements for transport authorities. So the basic one is to have the regulation for public transport. I will show you the functions in the next slide, but basically is how to deal with the registration of the cars, how to deal with the taxation for transit, and this. And then we have the entities. Normally, this is the second level, and most of the developing countries now are having this second level. No, is how to, and I have seen this in Nairobi, in Ghana, in Accra. Now you are building these institutions also for to have the management for the public transit market. Sometimes it's in the city or in the metropolitan area. Sometimes it's in the national government. No, like in Hanoi, in Vietnam, I remember it was a national government who was doing the whole MRT system, the BRT system, but it may vary in the different countries. Then you can have the public transport operations control, and then the most, I think what we want to have all over the cities is to have the urban mobility policy, is when you can actually plan the whole transport modes, not only public transport, is like all for private transport, for micro mobility, for all the transport modes, or even though for the connection with the airports, no? And it works very good in developed countries. Is you reach the airport and you can take like a metro transit lane and go faster and easy to your destination. And then the 5th level, which is urban development, which is the case of Singapore. I think I'm running over time, so okay, I just, this is the core competences for each of the statements of the, I mentioned before, is the policy formulation, the service and urban planning, the regulation, the infrastructure planning integrated with the construction and maintenance. And this is very important because in the atomization of those functions are very inefficient, no, in the metropolises. And then the responsibility for those who do the design, and for the others who do the construction, and the others who do the operation. So it's quite messy in many countries in this approach. So it's better to build, depending of the lane or depending of the transit mode, how to integrate those functions in the structure. So, okay, this is the public transport and urban planning operations, having like this comprehensive land use plan integrating the land use and the transport model. This is the list of the competences that you should build for transportation. Is policy formulation, the capital financing, the service planning, the intermodal coordination, well, this is more operational, but it's like the driver licensing, the vehicle registration, fare fixation. urban transport infrastructure, road infrastructure, right of way of acquisition, procedure for PPPs, resettlement and social safeguards, quality control and operation and management. For the land use, so also you need to have this policy formulation, the urban planning, the urban regulation, the urban control compliance, the land development, redevelopment, and real estate and institutional development, the urban enhancement conservation, and for community, and this is where participation and representation is very, also this is touched in the presentation of Pedro about how the decision makers or how the citizens are represented and how they do all the pressure, how to deal with. So, but now, for example, in Bogota, we have this incident participation. So actually the community is becoming the decision maker. So we are facing this problem that Pedro mentioned, how the community don't know how to deal or how to get an agreement, no? So we need, and sometimes we need to concentrate or transfer, or sometimes we need to control. And always keeping in mind the proximity, the density, and the diversity that we need to provide in all the structure. So I just will go faster over other subjects in the dialogue with the institutions and the community and governments. Is about the migration, the urban growth, the climate change adaptations, the natural catastrophes, biological risk, the mixed use and urban activities, the multifunction spaces. Oh, sorry, 1 second. Sorry. The 15-minute cities are the 30-minute cities are the 45-minute cities, but actually this is a matter of the metropolis scale and the functions that we need to reach. So right now the agent-based models are the tools to take decisions for planning. With all this digital transformation, we have this real-time data and open data for also the new tendencies to do urban development in micro units with innovation districts or sharing economies like Airbnb or Uber, the fractional ownership, the shared transport modes, the autonomous transportations, and the Internet of Things, and then the tokenized economies and blockchain arrangement. This is becoming a stronger point because I think also many of the metropolitan discussions have to migrate to these new kind of economies and blockchain arrangements with the private sector and the institutions. This is the tools for dialogue. So we have the radar plot, which is how we measure the efficiency of the network, and the agent-based models for that it can be captured by the cellular phones or by the registration of data or places that we go, or how we do everything online now. And then the sharing economies and the micro sizes. The Internet of Things. This is an example, for example, how we can plan better the transport or the services for garbage or collection of, and this is the Metropolitan Governance strategy. This is, I think, the most efficient tool that we have to deal with all the subjects that we have been talking now. So this is the way to close the cage. So yeah. So you have the carrots, you have the sticks, and then you have the competences and close the cage. So thank you very much, everyone. This is what I want to share. So ready to hear your comments and questions. Okay, I will.
Thank you, Milena. I will read the question for you if you want.
Okay,
you
yes,
prefer?
thank you.
Well, we have like 5 or 6. We have Clemens. He makes a reflection. The metropolitan inhabitants still love cars. And then he makes a question. Very difficult to set up metro underground ways in different underground.
Underground ways who made the question? Clemens?
Clemens.
Okay, so
maybe if you want to.
And he's asking for like how to resolve about the private cars. Sorry, I didn't get the.
Maybe
to get the private cars, both development for the people. To go to the underground is less development for the people. But all we have to get more minded, so we all have to take it more serious. They still love cars, so.
Well, this is what I was mentioning. I think we cannot keep talking about cars and the private interest of few people, no, because the highest representation of the most of the countries are the people who does not have cars, at least in the South area. Maybe in America or Europe, no, they have a higher tendency of the cars, but for us, it's not in developing countries. It's not the issue. So, as a very famous mayor in Bogota said once, so cars is not my problem. I will not tell the people where to put the clothes. No, it's your problem, so you have to resolve. So you want to go. So when we are talking about cars, we are talking about congestion. No, and here the speech or the approach is about mobility. So it's not the same. Congestion is a problem of the private cars. The issue for metropolitan transport sector is mobility. So we have to be very clear and very emphatic for metropolitan discussions. How to connect, even though when we are trying to connect longer distances, you will find out that the car is not the best option because you have to pay tolls or you have to go through congestions. Now, when you have to go, for example, the interstitial distance for 30 kilometers, so you will find out that to have 30 kilometers with the tolls, with the taxation, with the consumption of diesel, with the maintenance, it's better to take the metro. No, but this is the responsibility of the government to provide this service, to get this connection where you need to access some service. No, talking about the metropolitan scale, no, as we are not having here urban discussions.
Thank you, Milena. We have to Majida Swajat. Says, can you please send me the lecture? It is not so clear to see the details, and put the email right there. And then Mark Roland de Castro says, can you cite best case studies on metro transport, including financing and mechanisms such land value capture?
Well, I think the highest reference or the best reference for all of us is we want to be Singapore, no? But Singapore is a metropolis state, no? Like the same metropolis is the whole country. So they have this transport authority, Singapore Transport Authority, and they deal with everything. I think this is the only transport company over the world that has a profitable operation, no? Based in the real estate income or benefits. I think this is
Milena,
the best example.
Then we have a Patrick Jerome. He said, please post a copy of the presentation at the IMF Facebook page. Yes, we're going to do that.
Okay.
Thank you, Patrick. And I think we have one more question. Ashwani, what should be ways and structural typologies of transport, which may support and facilitate decongesting the metros and not making them excessive, attractive, or island of excellence, creating the pools in the larger region?
Yeah, so once again, this is not only matter of transport mode or the technology of the transport, no? Because okay, there are so many discussions that we can transport more efficient in a train or in a BRT, or maybe we can go faster in a LRT. Now, what is more efficient? It will depend only about the connection that you have to do or you have to link for the urban centers. No, so it will highly depend, and actually the approaches to deal with the metropolis development. It's about how you are diverse in the land use structure, not to avoid the people to go to other places, instead to be contained in one area. No, so if you have residential areas with workplaces, with education, with health services, with recreation, not like all the third places uses, so you will not need to move to other places. But when you have to move, no, and this is part of the efficiency for the metropolis, you need to go faster as you can. So here the answer is, if you have to have this high interaction between two cities or two urban nodes to build up this metropolitan transport, what is the overall experience over the world is like a commuter railway system, no? And it's a regional system. But not all the countries can afford this. So you have to be super smart to build this trunk or a strong core in the network for the metropolis. That's why Metromatrix is so efficient, no? Because you can play, no, in different angles and alternatives, different modes and different connections. Normally it's attached with the road network, but when you plan the road network with a transport system, it's still better, no? And this is something that the government doesn't understand very well, is that the road network is not the transport network, because the road network can be built for only for cars, which is a mistake. And then you realize that you need the same road network to have efficient connection between two nodes.
Thank you, Milena. We have two more questions. One is from Akriti. Where does the gender inclusive transportation planning policies stand in the metropolitan planning priorities?
Well, this is a very interesting subject, and I think this is another sector to build up. How the gender approach can be permeable in all the sectors, because it's not only the transport. I may say we need the gender approach in the environment to take care of the environment, in the housing, how we build now houses, in the technology, how we are having this digital transformation and having this integration, no, with the different needs for female. And but however, no, it's a subject which is not resolved, and it's very attached to the culture. I just want to mention one insight that I am having now in Bogota. So I am responsible to have the implementation of the technical direction for the first green corridor in the city, no? And how we are building this, we are trying to define, for example, something small is the bathroom, no? Or the lactancy rooms, or the services, because we want to increase the sense of safety of women in the transport system, and the children accessing the transport systems. So there is no like a worldwide policy for metropolitan scale. It's still very young, for example, for the urban transport scale, because it's more in the micromobility, in the tendency, in the engine-based model that we need to provide to the system, not to fit all the information and to create the necessity, no, but it has to be visible. So yeah, this is it's something as well from a bathroom to going to the metropolitan scale, but I mean, it's the whole spectrum that we need to build up for a gender approach in the metropolitan. But I will say the right, let's say the pillars to build like a gender policy should be environment in the sectors, environment in housing, and education, where actually everything what is related with the caring policy, is where the gender approach should be stronger.
Thank you, Milena. We have Majida with the microphone. She wants to ask a question.
Hello, Majida.
Thank you for such a great lecture. We are happy to join you from Jordan, and we are really appreciated such a very important issue that you started to really, Louis and your team. We need that badly in Jordan to hear such solutions for mobility and for transportation. Now I am a member in downtown in a city called Irbid Development, and we're trying to find solutions for transportation. We have really very bad previous planning for the cities. We don't have good infrastructure for mobility. So what pay my attention, the ideas, the points that you mentioned, it's talked about advanced developed countries that looking for such issues to have more luxury in the mobility. For us as third world countries, we need the basics. We need some case studies that would help us really to go out in a solution for, let's say, we started with the fast buses, but still it took 10 years in our capital, in Amman, until now it's not working very well. We need, let's say, to put a tram in Irbid. It's not a mountain, so it's easy, but still we could not make it because of the directions of the transportation. So how we can, what I need to go out from this lecture, really, Milani, all of what you have already discussed, this will help me to go out in a solution in my city, benefiting from your lecture. I would really like you to recommend for me, let's say, this company for Metro. It was very successful in this city. I will go for this company. I will see what solutions they will give me. This company in this city, it was very good for buses solution. So I would appreciate a lot for you and for Louis and all the team, if you give us this great help. I think I will be so grateful and thankful for you, because it will be fruitful since we are now working on such a subject in my city. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Majida. So glad and happy to have you here as our interest in this component. Well, it's difficult situation or difficult question, because what is first, not the egg or the chicken, no? But I will advise you first to build up over the competences, no? And you can start from the basic structure, as same as Mats was mentioning, and then have an evolution depending of the maturation or the yes, how you are evolving in the right direction, no? So you can start to build the small competences which are about the operation, and then you can migrate about the institutional arrangements and the policy and the technical studies to build up this metro matrix that you will need for your city, based in the capacity corridors that I was mentioning. So you can set up like an agenda But I think the core here is to have the institution with the core competences to build up all these approach or all this vision. No, so I will say first focus on the competences, then do all the technical studies, starting from the scratch, from the basics. What are your physical conditions? What are your socioeconomic conditions? What are your activities where you need to connect? Then build this matrix or network that you need to interconnect all the metropolitan area. Then decide what structure and what is more affordable for your city, depending on the subsidies or the financing or the incentives, what transport mode you can afford. No, normally very, let's say BRT is very fashionable because it's cheaper and faster. And that's so attractive for the politicians. But I may say, normally it's not the sustainable way in the longer term to build up these metropolises. So it's better, yes, to have a hand from the experts from other experiences. Do not repeat the mistakes, no? And to try to have these criteria very founded in the regulation, in the policies, and in the common understanding. Because also, for example, what happened in some countries is depending, and that happens in Philippines, that happened in Colombia, in Argentina, in Mexico, in many countries, is you have a new mayor or a new president, and then the whole bunch of plans are dropped. No, like you have to start the next administration again, what they want to do. Because so sad, transportation, I think, is the flag for the election, no? Like before every mayor was saying, I will build up more roads, I will improve the traffic, I will remove the congestion from the streets, no? I will give subsidies for the cars, no? Before, no? Let's say 40 years ago, it was that approach. Now it's changing. It's changing. There was a question in the chat, how we pressure to make this happen. And actually, I think it's the public opinion that we need to foster in this approach, how to increase mobility, how to be more efficient. But going back to your first question is to building up the competences to have this structure done over your city, and then we can migrate in all the scales and gradations that we need to have the maturation in the planning.
Okay, Milena, we have 3 or 4 more questions. Thank you, Majida. Biswadip Acharya said, how can we create awareness among the people that traveling in public transport doesn't define you poor? A case of developing countries?
I think this is matter to lead through the example. No, so the awareness, I understand the car is the meaning of status, no, in many countries, in many cultures. But when you go to Paris or when you go to Madrid, so you find the ministry or the mayor in the metro, no, like any other citizen, no, because I think the transport, the public transport is the most equitable way to represent how you are in a society which are more equitable. No? When a rich guy cannot afford a car to go, no, or not afford, they prefer to go in the transport network than in a car because the incentive of the service or the efficiency of the service is better than the car. So you will take the best decision. So actually the best incentive is to offer a high quality of service in the transport service. No, it means that you have to be reliable, you have to be safe, you have to be easy not to access the transport system. So I think this is the best incentive. If you can build a service where you are comfortable, no? So it's how you become attractive in the service, and they would prefer to drop the car, or they would prefer to go in public transport instead of the car. So the awareness for some people, also, for example, here in my city, our mayor now, she rides bicycle everywhere. Our former mayor, she rides a bicycle everywhere. So it means that everyone, we are having an increase in the mobility in bicycle. I think we are going higher than Amsterdam in Bogota. So the ridership is increasing enormously in bicycle. But I don't mean that this is sustainable, no, because still we have a lot of segregation in the function. So some people cannot afford the distance or the physical effort to reach one place to another in the metropolitan size. No, so we still need all these strong transport systems to move the highest productivity in the city. No, because actually this is a matter of money. So how you move all the workforce or all the students through all the network to be productive and efficient in the metropolitan area.
Thanks, Milena. We have right now like 3 or 4 more questions. Okay, Patrick Jerome said, here in the Philippines, government prefers to increase road to car ratio, more roads to accommodate more cars. Constructing a railway or mass transit system encounters so many challenges. Singapore cannot be an example for the Philippines. Is there a successful model that planners here in the Philippines can use as an example?
Well, Philippines, you're in a trouble. Well, first of all, because you have this geographical challenge, no? Because you have, I think, 7,000 islands or 700. Well, it's like too many islands. I don't remember now. It's like too many islands, no? So sometimes your metropolitan area are attached to the island, to one island, no? So the interaction is in that island, because your transport network in boats or over the sea might be difficult or not too efficient. No, it's not like in Thailand, you have the Chao Phraya River, and then you have this trunk connector over the city, not giving a structure. So yes, like I may say, you need to tailor a solution for the Philippines. No, when we are talking about Metro Manila or Metro Cebu, you have a very big problem, because you have the nation, the government, it's centralized, no, and they don't have any delegation. And for example, the metros in the BRT in Cebu is led not by the municipalities, not by the governor, not for the metro manager, no, is led by the Ministry of Transport. When the Ministry of Transport is in the northern area of the Philippines, and they don't know anything about the Visaya or the southern part of the Philippines, so it's difficult to have any work done in the Visaya, no? So then for Metro Manila, you have also like 17 municipalities, not all of them amalgamated. And those municipalities, if they are from different parties, so if you need to do the network for something, and passing through one municipality and they don't want to have any improvement or do any investment, so you are in the hands of the private sector. That's why the network, the transport network in Metro Manila does not connect the people's need, no? It connects the malls' needs. So the network is connecting only the malls all over Metro Manila, but actually the people who need to reach the call centers, the work centers, the education, the universities, the schools, they have to be like a super big effort in the informal sector. which are the jeepneys. Now everything, all of this is improving, but still in the jeepney is 20 passengers capacity. So how you will deal metro area with 20 million people with jeepney, which is only 20 passengers per vehicle, and then you have a congestion of jeepneys. And if you take a picture of any of your streets in EDSA, no, EDSA no, is not an example, maybe Quezon, España Avenue, so you will see how many jeepneys. So the congestion is not by, is of course with the mixed traffic with private vehicles, but you will see a congestion of jeepneys. So you cannot resolve a metropolitan problem with 20 passenger car. So you are in a very big problem having this macro setting, macro dimension for metropolitan areas. So the first thing you need to resolve is the institutional arrangements. Once again, you can have the need, no, but if you don't have the institutions and the competences to resolve it, so you will miss it. So you need to have stronger institutions. That's why you fail in the BRT. No, that's why you may not have also the EDSA corridor. You may not have also Clark, because the institutions are so weak, because the power is only in the ministry. So it's how you delegate all these competences, how you give the policy. So it's totally centralized. As we mentioned, this is not the best way to deal with these kind of policies.
Thank you, Milena. I want to tell you that we have 6 more questions. And then, Pedro, I don't know if now or later, after the 6th question, it's gonna do an announcement. Pedro, you want to say something right now or later, after the 6 questions?
Well, well, we are just now thinking about it. It has been such an interesting conversation and discussion and so on that we are all so much involved that instead of taking 3 hours, it's going to take 5 hours. So I think that's impossible for East Asia, because it will be 2 a.m. In the middle of the night. So I think what we should do is the next presentation, if you don't mind. One of yours is yours, Luis Eduardo, but the other one is from Mohammed, and I am trying to talk with Amir to see if we can reprogram next day, and both of you can make the presentation next day, because it will be a pity of losing the possibility to listen to both of you because of the hour. So I suggest that after Milena's answering the presentations, we close the day and we postpone it. We reprogram for the next session that is going to be, we can announce it right now, next Saturday at the same hour, 13 hours UTC, and we will be very happy to have the 120 people that we had at a certain moment discussing. So you are invited to finish with Milena, and I will ask both of you, Mohammed and Luis Eduardo, to be reprogrammed for next Saturday. Thank you.
Of course, Pedro. Thank you. It's okay for me. Thank you very much. I will continue reading the questions. Babalola Olufunke ask, what model can you prefer for large metropolises in Sub-Sahara Africa, considering the density of the cities?
Or Sub-Saharan, like you have like this low density, I may say, and knowing that you don't have subsidies yet, I will say it's better, or most of the countries in the Sub-Sahara doesn't have subsidies or this policy in place. So I may say, Pedro might not be agree, but I will see BRT or LRT. Something like in the middle capacity, not this high speed, strong capacity, no, because Pedro will have his argument about how metropolises are growing how we have increasing population in the urban areas. But yeah, I think it will take still like 20 years something to have this kind of concentration, densification. So I will, instead to have these strong systems, I will try to go for something lighter, like a BRT or LRT, speeding up the connection and the accessibility.
Okay.
Isn't it, Pedro?
Well, as I am asked directly. Well, if you have the money, what we did in Madrid, because we had the money and the capacity, we built the metro, the underground, before people build their homes. So you can that way just service a demand. You put the supply of the public transport before the demand. So as a train takes 20 years to be built, and the example of Santiago de Chile, I told them 20 years ago to build a train, and they took 20 years to build a train. Maybe those 20 years to have the demand will be good enough to start thinking. And even if you don't build it, you have to design the metropolis as the train is going to be there, because there is going to be a moment that the train will be needed. And if you have not thought of it from start, then you will not be able to put it in. And the good example is New Cairo. New Cairo, which is the extension of Cairo, they have not thought that extension with the train system, which is absolutely necessary because it's 5 million people or something like that. It's a crazy growth. And now there is no possibility to put the train. So maybe you have to plan. That's the difference between planning and programming. You plan in the long term for where the things have to be, and then you program your investments in the short term, and that is more political, giving priorities to your own ideological stand that the people have voted, and that's why you're in politics, no? But one thing is having the whole picture for the 20 years, so you have to plan that transport, heavy transport, but then you build it when the time comes, but you already have planned it for the location of it.
Yes, totally agree. I mean, it's matter of to have the right mindset and then to get the evolution, what is more efficient in the investment and how you become attractive and efficient. No, because depending on this, so you will have a sustainable development.
Another question, David Sajita said, "Hi, I want to respond a little bit. Many times I hear you put Singapore as samples. I think if you look other countries near Singapore, it will be very different. Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, only several parts uncovered. Thailand, Bangkok, still like Kuala Lumpur, Indonesia, Jakarta, only this city has almost good transportation system."
Yes, I agree. I mean, you can have here a great variety of efficiency for cities, no? And it depends about the government and the policy. So you don't have like the successful recipe. I will say also Kuala Lumpur on their way are successful, but still they need a long way to go for sustainability, no? Because still they have many inefficiencies to connect the productivity centers and the services over the network, no? So it's like an evolution. I may say we have all this model of Singapore, but for sure we will not be able to have 1 million Singapore over the metropolises that we have now. So we have to go to reality, but still we can dream about. So we need to have like the best practices and the best models, and then what is working for some of us. So for example, here in Bogota, also the PPP is not based what Singapore has. The PPPs here are based in what France has, what London has. So it's like how you mix all the experiences to to have something appropriate, what works for you. So.
Okay, Leila Youssef has a question for Pedro. Is it important public participation in shaping the metropolis?
Well, that's a very nasty question, and it's not related to transport. It's related to institutions and governance. So let's leave that question for next day. It is a very important one, but it's a very difficult one. So let's leave it for next day.
Thank you, Pedro. Francisca Eufemia Kemetsi said, generally, in developing countries, public transportation is characterized by unhealthy and unsafe conditions, evidenced in the public transport. The notion that only the poor use public transport can be changed when the public transport systems are made attractive, introducing clean and efficient systems with rules.
Yeah, actually, there is I don't have it yet, but there is a pyramid of needs for the passengers. So the base of the pyramid is you have to have a system which is safe and reliable. So if you don't have a system which is safe and reliable, you need to change the mayor, as our mentor will say. So if you cannot go faster and easily, you need to still change the mayor. No, it means like Pedro and many of you have seen how he goes against the Bogota solution, no? Because we have Transmilenio all over the city, but there's still so many people take 3 hours to go to the place, no? So this is not efficient. So and it's not safe. We have violence. Still BRT is not. Once was very good system, but that's why you need to work a lot in the sustainability. So if you have safe, attractive, easy transport system, definitely you will shift this perception of the people. But still, once you have that, you have to take care about it, during the operation and the maintenance and the culture. It's not only to have the infrastructure, it's the whole social system that has to work over the transport system.
Okay, Joel Mankol said, Milena, good observation for my country. I'm not sure what's country.
I think it's
a comment.
I think
okay. Patrick Jerome said, thank you for that very honest reply, Milena. I will be using your reply in dealing with plans here in southern Mindanao. Majida, great idea, Pedro, said. Patrick Jerome, it's past midnight here in the Philippines. Okay, we are finishing. Anastasia Paparis said, thank you for the presentation, Milena, and thank you for the contributors and in the interesting discussions. Adodo says, Pedro, this never happens in Ghana. Development is always before planning. Okay, I will continue reading. Fatimi Majd says, hello, I have a question for Pedro. How can we use the potential of brownfield and industrial heritage in the shaping of metropolis? Pedro? You are without a microphone.
Look, questions for me next week, because it's too late. And
okay.
Questions to Milena. And I suggest you put all the questions to Milena together and Milena answers that. And we can next week develop more details on any questions. Okay, and the last question is also for you. I will read it only for the record. Simon Bache says, Pedro, from your knowledge of Abuja, Nigeria, how can we have a very efficient metro system in the city? Wow, it's about transport. I have answered that he should look at my reports on Abuja in the webpage. In my webpage, I have reports on Abuja because I have worked for Abuja. Thank you.
Okay, Milena, Pedro, you have the microphone to the finish of the session.
Pedro or Milena? I rather have Milena finishing.
Okay, thank
She
you.
has been the past president. She has been the first and past president of the IMF. So she has a very important role. She can finish.
Okay, thank you very much, Pedro. So thank you everyone to come and join us in this session. I think it was very fruitful, very interesting, all those discussions and this whole sequence about the management, metropolitan management, governance, and transport sector. No, we hope to see next session with Eduardo with the planning sector and Mohammed for the heritage. So I will invite you to all to join us next session, and I hope this information is being fruitful and useful for your roles, no, in professional roles, academy, or government positions. So to change your perspective in the scale, in the size, in the patterns that we have to deal with, no, and the speech that we have to have as a common ground. So thank you very much. Enjoy your weekend. Bye-bye.
One picture, one photo, please. If you put your camera, one final.
Let's see. Okay.
Just Mark said.
See you next Saturday at 13 hours UTC.
Okay.
That's it.
Another. Wait a minute. Put your cameras, please. Smile. Okay. Okay, I have it. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.